still got energy? Yeah. Only a harbinger is stubborn and a mule, right? You're doing great. We should have like a musical interlude or something. See the children know how to sing and dance. Okay, who's next? Charlie Rosenzweig. You still here? Okay. The Rosenzweigs, I have to say, is a prelude. And one of the reasons why I got this tree is that in my travels, I met all kinds of parts of the family, and I went to New York.
The Rosenzweig family is part of the yellow branch. I just want to say that while we're setting up here, we only have one. I don't know why, because I was counting here, and we have at least 2 tables. And in addition, I think the Honigs, we should be getting your stripes. We're partly, right, because your mom was certainly the yellow group. So I just want to say that I have nothing against it, but look at ours, they're kind of compacted. Right. But Jody, you did a great job, and the fact that you pulled it off here is amazing, and I really thank you for it. Are we set up here?
Is that yours?
Yeah.
Remember going to
Yeah.
this
Okay.
Center, highest,
That's all right. You can put that just a page on.
when they first came in.
So our subfamily group is the Rosenzweigs, and the name is, we'll talk about some more, but my grandmother, Yenta, was a harband by her father's name, and we also have had, and over the years, and we are, I guess, the most recent arrivals here in the United States. I'm a first-generation American, as are my cousins here. I just want to introduce you. Joy is over here. Joy lives in Chappaqua, New York. And what do you do?
I work at a nonprofit micro-enterprise development organization, training people to start and grow small businesses.
Her husband Bill is back there. And you work for?
I work for Coca-Cola,
Okay. And Joy's younger brother, Claudio, is unusual. Where do you live, Claudio?
Mexico City.
And what do you do?
The remaining of my dad and my uncle's business, buying ribbon and making bows for women's lingerie.
Still going.
And Lillian
Lillian is also involved with me in the office.
Okay, and my wife Raya is sitting in the middle table over there. All right, so if we get the PowerPoint up there, we can start talking about our sub-family group. And so we are first generation, but there's a lot of interrelationships with the Harband family in San Francisco over the years. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, about our history, tell you a bit about the Holocaust, because my parents and my father and yet actually lived through the Holocaust in Chernovitz, which was near Tarnopol in the Galicia. We've heard about that before. And can we get this up here? Maybe. And we just came in from New York, most of us, Mexico City too.
Exactly.
Okay, we get it done. French.
It's very back.
Okay, so you get this, you get rid of this. Okay. All right, this is actually Leon Harband, who is, we've heard the name before, is, I guess, the brother of Pearl, and so that's a relationship. And Leon comes from was actually an Abramovich, and it's from the first wife, if you will, you saw that Jody sent in the beginning.
So he was my
The,
grandmother's brother.
yeah, this is a,
Is your
no,
grandmother's brother?
slide two.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Okay, so this is a, sure, two? No, four. Yeah, that's one. Okay, well, anyway, this is taken 1922, and the reason I know that is because this is my father here. And the other people who were in the Harband family would be his mom, Yeti, or Yenta, and that name keeps coming back. There are a lot of J's and stuff like that in this family. I've heard that. Leon has come in several places. So Leon, and so Yeta was the daughter of Leon, and he also had three other daughters. The fifth from the right is Genka, who came to the United States and lived on the war. Yunka, another daughter who died, actually, in the war. All right. Okay, this is my grandmother, who was a Harband and Leon's daughter, and her husband, my grandfather, Chaim. And the name Weinrau and Rosenzweig are kind of interchangeable. We heard a lot about names being changed over the years. You know, Harband was taken by different Abramovich. This is a similar thing. Weinrau was his father's name, and Rosenzweig was a mother's name, and things got changed over the years. But anyway, and this is a picture of in the about 1930, in the early 30s, because you have my father's brother here, Gary, which is Joy and Claude's father. Up there, above his father was my father, Willy, and Genka was again one of was my grandmother's sister and her first husband. And this is the Rosenzweig people. This is my Gary, Joy and Claude's father, and my father, Willie. All right, this is a little bit of history I thought we would do, and I'm sorry it didn't come out as clearly as I would have liked, but I thought we would talk a little bit about where Czernowitz was. Czernowitz, we talked about Austria, Galicia, Tarnopol, all this stuff was Austria until 1918. And in 1918, it was divided. So Czernowitz became, which is up here actually. So we saw the maps that Jody had set up. So it's on the southern part of Galicia on the Romanian border. It became actually part of Romania in 1918. And then in 1939, when Hitler invaded Poland, the Soviet Union also invaded the eastern part of Poland to protect its flag, invaded Romania. And this part here became Soviet Union. So from 1939 to 1941, my parents, Willie, Gary, they went to Soviet schools. In 1941, the Nazis invaded back into that area, and there was a change. This became given back to Romania. This part of Romania was actually in Hungary, so this was compensation. And they also got Transnistria, which was Transnistria in the Romanian language, which is a Romance language, over the Dniester River. And I was just at the Holocaust Memorial up in Legion of Honor in San Francisco yesterday, and I noticed that one of the places they named is Transnistria. Transnistria was a killing field for Romanian Jews, mostly from the Bukovina, which is that northern province that used to be Galicia, and Bessarabia. And those, the killing field was really low tech. It was starvation, cold, and disease, mostly typhus, and hundreds of thousands of Jews died there. And the camps were, and my father Transnistria, and that was where they survived the war. Now what happened was they were deported in October 41, which is one of the earliest deportations of Jews, and really by the Romanian administration. But after 1941, where most of them died in the winter of 1941-42, the Romanians started hedging their bets, and they started realizing that they actually may lose the war. That Hitler was stalling in Stalingrad, and that therefore they stopped deportations in 42, 43, and they started allowing certain aid to get through, sent by Jews from Chernobyl and other places who were still there. And so after the first year, it started to being easier to survive. But, and also, the other thing was that because they were so far east, that after Stalingrad victory by the Soviets, my parents my father was liberated in 1944, in March of 44, and they were taken back to Chernobyl. Now, the interesting thing about Chernobyl was that before the deportation, Chernobyl was a city of about 150,000 people, of which 30 or 40,000 were Jewish. And that even though it was part of Romania, it was, because it had been part of Austria, in town it was German speaking. My grandfather, who saw the picture before, had been a prisoner of war actually in Russia for the Austrian-Hungarian army in the First World War. Okay, let's okay, my grandfather, Willy and Gary's father died in 1945, unrelated, from stomach cancer, leaving at that point my father at 23 years of age, the man, if you will, the oldest in his family, taking care of his mother, his aunt Genka, who at that point lost her husband, and also Gary, at that point, his younger brother was, I guess, 16. So, so this is 1945. They decide that they could no longer stay in the Soviet Union because that area was then re-annexed by the Soviet Union. It was no longer Romania. And they actually had enough of the Soviets and decided to leave, since they spoke Romanian, that they had gone to Romanian schools, they declared themselves to be Romanian citizens and went over the Romanian border. So this is a marriage picture of my mother and father in 1947, being married in Bucharest, Romania. And okay, and this is where the intersection with the Harband family gets interesting again. In 1947, my parents leave Bucharest with my father's mother, Genka Harband, his sister Genka, and Gary, and they go to Milan, Italy, on a 60-day visa on the way supposedly to the Dominican Republic. They were displaced persons, they had no state, and at that point they had no ability to support themselves. And it was Julius Harband at that point who was sending money to them every month to support them for what the 60 days turned out to be 2 years until they could get the U.S. visa. And so this is Italy, a picture of my parents in Milan in front of the Galleria there. So that was when they were in Italy before coming to the United States. So this is my parents. This is now the five. They came with $50 in their pockets when they came across the United States in New York. This is my Gary and Willie's mother here on the left. You got the Harband, her sister, on the far right. And this is shortly after they arrived in the United States. It's an interesting story, and this was something alluded to by Lorraine earlier, is that my parents did not intend to actually stay in New York. They were going to go to New York on the way to San Francisco. Their family was the Harbands in San Francisco, Yet was first cousin to Dora, and somewhat more distant, and I can't exactly figure out how Julius, but the Harband family was here. My parents did not hear from the Harbands after they arrived in the U.S. very much, although I think they met Lorraine in the city, in New York, because she was a grad student there. My dad and my grandmother took a bus across the country and came to San Francisco, where they were received, but they weren't encouraged to stay. I don't know why. In any event, they went back. They took some jobs in San Francisco, working for a hotel. He told me as a janitor at that point, but in different things. And he went back to New York, and they started a company called Fashion Ribbon Company. It's 1950. And they started manufacturing things like bows and ribbon products, mostly for ladies' brasiers, undergarments, you know, the little thing in the middle of the bra. And later on to packaging for items such as, well then for perfume, Chanel and Missoni and other, Avon and other products. And they started out, actually, it was a family business. I mean, my mom worked there, my dad worked there, Gary worked there. My grandmother worked there, my great aunt Genka, who was a younger sister on the right, she was there, I remember as a kid, she was always there. It was like when I showed up at the family, it was like, you know, this was the thing to do. I had to work there one year, my summer, when I was 19 in the summer. Joy worked there for a time. My brother ended up, who died 5 years ago, my brother worked there pretty much all his life until he died, and then became the president of the New York operation. Claude's still working there in Mexico. So they have plans, they had at various times, they do not now, but they had at Puerto Rico and Haiti and Italy, in the United Kingdom, in Portugal, Guatemala, several places in China. And since my dad died and my brother died, we ended up closing everything but one in Mexico, which Claude runs. So this is, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is my aunt. She remarried. Mel Wiesner was his second marriage and hers as well. We remember them as being a lovely couple. They lived in Sunnyside, Queens, in the apartment where my parents originally owned, and we were. It was actually, I think, in addition to the business, my family actually had half the building of their family and friends in Sunnyside, Queens. Now, this is Gary, my uncle, Willie's younger brother, and his wife Ruth, and was at their wedding. Gary was an interesting guy because he was, as I said, much younger than my dad. He was 7 years younger, and he was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War, and so before he was a citizen. So he actually took the oath of office, or the citizenship oath, when he was in the military, and this photograph actually appeared in various New York newspapers, because I thought it was at Ebbets Field, but maybe this doesn't look like it, so I don't know. But it was they used to have these mass swearing-ins, and they brought him out because he was in uniform. He actually served in in San Antonio, Texas, and then he ended up, I don't know how he got this post, he was commuting to the Army and to Fort Hamilton. I think he took the subway to work. Very odd. In 1957, my parents moved to Roslyn Heights, which is on Long Island. And this is a picture of my brother, myself, and my parents shortly after that. In 1965, we made a trip to California, and this is my first really recollection of meeting the Harband family here in San Francisco. I remember meeting Julius and Henny in Hillsborough. And I remember, for whatever reason, drinking orange juice with 7-Up. I don't know if that was a drink that was always, but we got served that. And I'm also confirmed that, yes, Julius really hated FDR. He would tell me, and the one thing with my dad was he found because my dad had been under Soviet occupation, and he really found a true soulmate in somebody who really hated the Soviets. Really, and so they really got along fairly well. And by that time, my dad his business had been relative success, and so they could talk business together. I also think I met Lorraine Victor at your beautiful townhouse I think I saw in San Francisco at that time. I remember meeting Charlie Harband in San Mateo in the backyard, and it was really impressive to me because I had grown up essentially with a family that was all foreign born, and this is a really Americanized family, so it was very interesting for me. Thereafter, we had a visit from Jody in New York, and he had gone to study at NYU and get a PhD in math, and it was interesting because we're not that religious, but it was a kind of an eye-opener, I guess, for Jody, who was invited naturally to our house for Passover and the high holidays. And I think he started getting very involved with, and maybe even carried away with Judaism. But he really, and I think that's, I think he got into that. And then we've had occasion. I was at the wedding, and I remember it was Jody and Anita in New York. And we also have an occasion over time to meet in Israel, which has been kind of fun. We've been in touch with Martin Carroll over the years, which is kind of nice, and their children, and that's great as well. And by the way, congratulations on your engagement. This is in addition to my father, mother, and Gary, and by the way, Yetta died in 1953. I don't really remember her. She died about I was a year old. But my mother brought her family over, so we had a lot of people eventually coming into New York, and that's our family in New York. And this is, you saw them before, they looked a little different. Joy and Claude, who are here.
A little fatter, but...
And my wife and I at one of the parties. These are my daughters when they were young. Erica on the left and Jessica on the right. This is taken probably in the 1980s. This is at a wedding of Joy and Bill. This is my late brother who died 5 years ago of pancreatic cancer, and some of you have supported the foundation we created in his honor, and his wife. Anyway, that was kind of a tragedy that our family went through, but that happens. He was a great guy, and worked with my dad every day at Fashion Ribbon. These are the two oldest children, boys of my brother, Stephen and Kenny. Stephen is now in a PhD program at Yale in political science. Kenny is going to law school next year. This is the two now 18-year-olds. The girl on the right is Joy and Bill's daughter, who is going to Emory University in the fall. And on the right is David Rosenzweig, which is my brother's youngest, and he'll be starting GW also in the fall. George Washington. And this is Danielle again, and Jake, who is Joy and Bill's oldest son. And then we have Claude and Lillian from Mexico. And then Claude's family, and who are here, including Esther, who is working the projector, and Aaron, who's over here. This is my oldest daughter now. I saw her in the 80s. Now she's married, and this is her husband, Michael and Michelle. They met at Haverford College in Haverford, Pennsylvania. And this is their newest, my grandson, Zachary, who is 3.5 years old, and he's, I guess, having a good time in Times Square. And this is recently at a graduation. This is Stephen on the second from the left, who is the PhD candidate at Yale, and he just got engaged to Jennifer, who is from the West Coast, actually, from Pasadena, and Lizanne, Jeffrey's wife, and Kenny, who's going to law school. This was actually the graduation, high school graduation for David. And this is, you can see, Jake and Danielle Bukowski, and Esther and Aaron. This is Gary's grandchildren. Gary died in, what was it, 10 years ago? 99. And this is another group of cousins. Okay, and this is hot off the press. This is 3 weeks ago, at the wedding of our youngest, Erica, to Ross Vinograd. And this is a picture someone took as they're walking in at the wedding. So thank you very much, and appreciate meeting you all.